Making weight is the most basic requirement in combat sports. You agree to a limit, you hit it, and you fight. And if you can cut weight effectively, it can be a huge advantage when you step into the cage.
It's sanctioned cheating that everybody has to do.
But the pressure to cut as much as possible can push some fighters to cheat the scale. Towels, elbows, privacy boxes. The tricks have been tried at every level of the sport, from guys on the prelims all the way up to undisputed champions defending their belts in a main event. But how far does it go? And how many of them actually faced any real consequences? Heading into UFC 328, Khamzat Chimaev was trying to cut an insane amount of weight. He was originally supposed to fight at light heavyweight, and he had been bulking up.
He cut 100%, dude. He cut 22 kilos. Listen to me. He got 40-something pounds. They were making it so that he was going to fight Yuri Prohaska.
At 205.
Right. So he starts bulking up, and he's eating like a fucking animal, and he's deadlifting and doing all kinds of crazy shit.
He said he was 230, I think.
He was above that.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was somewhere north of 230. And so then he's 230, whatever. And so then he's got to drop down to 85, which is bananas. That's so hard to do. He never got fat. So what happens? Well, your muscle gets eaten away.
Yeah.
Your body deteriorates. You can't recover. And he had a bad breakdown in the middle of the weight cut.
His fight with Strickland was already one of the most anticipated in recent memory, with trash talk that went way beyond the usual pre-fight noise. But the weigh-in just poured more fuel on the fire. Chimaev arrived with around 20 minutes left in the window, and you could tell he was drained and exhausted after what his team described as the most brutal cut of his career.
He looked awful. First of all, he was the last one to show up. That never happens with champions. They want to get it over with.
Like
last
10,
one to show
20 minutes to go, too.
Exactly. He looked exasperated. He looked frustrated. He looked sunken in. He looked dehydrated. He looked awful.
He stepped on the hanging scale, and the balance bar was still bouncing when officials called 185, and he stepped off. Strickland wasn't buying it.
I'll be f***ing quick, you guys. This f***ing coward tries to f***ing kick me in the nuts like a f***ing pussy. You're a f***ing punk bitch. This f***ing didn't even make weight. You cheating f***. You son of a whore. Bitch.
And the MMA community wasn't pulling any punches either.
I've been making weight since I was 17 years old. I'm almost 32 now. It's almost been 15 years. I know what it looks like when somebody makes that weight. They have to stand completely still. The little thingy-me-bob on the scale, it has to balance. That dude didn't make that weight. There's no convincing me, bro. You know, Jeffrey Epstein's getting away with it. Apparently, aliens are going to take over the country, and now Chimaev makes weight. Yeah, it's all bullshit, dude.
But the New Jersey Commission signed off, and the fight went ahead. And despite everything, Strickland won by split decision, ending Chimaev's undefeated run with a huge upset. Maybe even bigger than his win against Israel Adesanya. But to make it even more interesting, Chimaev's brother gave an interview explaining the final hours of the cut.
Well, as far as I know, there were no injuries, but there was a problem with cutting weight. It was a really serious problem. And then there was the question of canceling the fight or risking it until failure. Well, the body gave up. About 200 grams remained, and they spent the whole night cutting that weight. Well, it just didn't work out. And, well, the last ones, you noticed it yourselves when Khamzat came up to weight. Well, up until that moment, they tried really hard. Interrupt us because his health didn't allow it.
With roughly 2.7 pounds to still lose, Khamzat suffered oxygen deprivation and his body essentially shut down. A lot of fans heard "body shut down" and drew their own conclusions. And although his camp never actually said he didn't make weight, there's definitely ambiguity there. But there should be no ambiguity over watching more great MMA content. Subscribe now to make sure you don't miss out on more videos like this. And there's not even a question around this next fighter. Bellator 180 at Madison Square Garden was a big deal. It was the first time Bellator had ever run New York since MMA was legalized in the state. Chael Sonnen vs Wanderlei Silva was headlining, and for Sergio De Silva, who was raised in Queens, it was one of the biggest nights of his life.
On June 24th, we have an amazing fight card for you guys. It's going to be unbelievable. Top to bottom, we have 2 great title fights. We have 2 legend fights. We have more fights to add. And it's going to be a spectacular night. It's something that we're really proud of.
He was fighting in his own backyard, in front of a crowd that would have been rooting for him. The fight was already a catchweight bout agreed at 130 pounds, so Da Silva knew exactly what he had to hit. And even then, there were problems. His first move was to try and get a quick reading and come back later in the window, which the commission immediately shut down. So instead, he tried everything else. He lifted one foot completely off the scale and rested it on the floor. He refused to stand still, shifting his weight between different corners of the platform to try and get a lower number. And when none of it worked, and he finally had to stand properly with both feet flat, the scale read 137.6 pounds, more than 7 pounds over the agreed limit. What makes it even more insane is that Da Silva openly admitted it afterward. The fight went ahead anyway at the new catch weight, and Da Silva lost by submission in round 3. Of course, nobody's going to mistake Sergio Da Silva for a criminal mastermind, but the next guy on this list was a lot more careful about it, and he nearly pulled it off. UFC 244, Madison Square Garden. There was a ton of hype around Kelvin Gastelum versus Darren Till, especially with Till moving up a weight class. But Gastelum had never exactly been the model professional when it came to making weight.
I went into fight week with the intention of making weight, with the intention of fighting. You know, obviously that was the biggest fight of my life. You know, it was just my fault, man. My fault for being overweight outside of camp. You know, in camp, my whole camp is based on me trying to lose the weight that I gained, sure, you know, and not really focused on surroundings. So that's the problem that I have, is just I gain too much weight when I'm outside of camp.
He missed weight multiple times at welterweight, and even at middleweight still couldn't get it right despite being one of the shorter guys in the division. So things weren't looking good when Gastelum was the last fighter to step on the scale, and his team was toweling him down backstage right up until the moment he walked out. And when he got on the scale, it read 184 pounds, 2 pounds under the limit, clean as anything. Except it wasn't. Clearer video footage showed Gastelum's elbow resting on the shoulder of his coach, Rafael Cordero, who was standing just behind the modesty towel. It's a simple trick. Shift a little weight onto someone else, and the scale gives you a lower number. NYSAC reviewed the footage the same day and confirmed it, issuing a statement that Gastelum had made contact with another person while on the scale. His opponent wasn't that bothered.
Obviously, I've seen it. Everyone's been sending me it, you know. Listen, if he did, if he didn't, it doesn't matter to me, because my coach told me, you know, a long time ago, any man over 70 kilos should be able to defend himself against any man, especially in the octagon. So for me, I'm not looking into it yet. I've seen the video. Did he or didn't he? I couldn't give two fucks. I'm here to fight. If he was 5 or 10 pounds over, if he was actually on weight, it just doesn't change my world in any way.
And the only thing that happened was a $1,000 fine for Gastelum and $200 for Cordero, $1,000 for a co-main event fighter. The fight went ahead untouched, and Gastelum lost to Till via split decision. He later said he hadn't noticed the contact, that he was just trying to keep his hands raised as instructed. Maybe, but the camera doesn't lie. And this wasn't even the first time it happened under the exact same commission. 2 years earlier, someone had done it first and got away with it completely. At UFC 210 in Buffalo, New York, Daniel Cormier was defending the light heavyweight title against Anthony Johnson, one of the scariest fighters in UFC history.
He's a goddamn short-term hurricane that rips the house right out of the foundation. He's not necessarily a long storm. I think what Rumble does is comes at you fast and hard, and he can go fast and hard better than anybody.
For a title fight, there's no 1 pound allowance. You hit 205 exactly, or come in under that weight. And if you're a champion, coming in overweight means you're stripped of the title before the fight even begins. The fight may still go ahead at a catch weight, but only the challenger can win it. Cormier stepped on the scale first, 206.2. This was a guy who was used to cutting weight and had the process locked down.
I would get up at 7 a.m. I would hit pads on Monday, Wednesday. Then I would go to sparring, and then I would do bikes at night, cardio. Tuesdays, 11 a.m. pads, 12 o'clock wrestling. Then at night, I would hit pads again and run. I was doing 15 a week.
He looked shocked, stepped off, and disappeared backstage.
If you watch as I walk onto the scale, I was kind of almost staggering because the weight cut was a little harder than I anticipated it being.
A few minutes later, he came back out, stripped behind a towel held by his team, stepped on again, and hit 205 exactly. Officials approved it, and the fight was on, but the fans knew something wasn't right. Cormier's hands were resting on top of the towel, pressing down slightly, shifting just enough weight onto the people holding it. The official standing right next to him didn't notice a thing. Rumble's manager filed a formal complaint and called for the title to be stripped. Cormier denied it and said he was just holding the towel for modesty. Until years later, in his Hall of Fame induction speech in 2022, with the cameras rolling and the crowd watching, he came clean.
I want to tell you something because I feel like right now is the time to be completely transparent. I think I may have grabbed the towel in Buffalo.
He literally apologized directly to Johnson on the mic. Cormier won the fight by submission in round 2, retained the title, and Johnson retired on the spot afterward.
I want to do something besides, going to the gym every day, punching and kicking and rolling around with another dude. Shit get old. You know what I mean? I've been doing this for so long. I've been in sports since I was 8. It's just time to move on to something, different.
The Athletic Commission updated their procedures after the incident, trying to make sure this kind of thing wouldn't happen again, because fighters kept trying it, and in some cases, multiple times. See, the mysterious UFC 328 weigh-in with Khamzat Chimaev wasn't the first time it seemed like he cheated the scale. Go back to UFC 267 in Abu Dhabi, October 2021, when he was taking on Li Jingliang, and it's the same story.
They said before the fight he's like that, and after the fight, he's not his level, they have to give him some better guys, Yeah, we'll see. I'll come here and take his head and win this fight.
He was the last fighter to the scale, just like the Strickland fight, and on the first attempt he came in at 171.5, half a pound over the non-title allowance. Officials gave him an extra hour to cut the remainder. He came back around 45 minutes later, stepped on, and the scale read 166 pounds, a drop of 5.5 pounds in under an hour. You could see the UFC's weigh-in coordinator reacting on the broadcast, confused by the number. Fans at home weren't confused at all. Chimaev's hands and arms were clearly pressing down on the towel, the same exact technique DC had used in Buffalo, shifting just enough body weight onto the people holding it to move the number on the scale. This time, the commission told him to raise his arms, step off, and go again. Officials later attributed the 166 reading to a scale malfunction. On his third attempt, with his hands raised above his head and nothing to lean on, he hit 171.
Some people on social media were saying you were using your hands on the towel.
Towel. When you were one guy, I'm Muslim, brother. It's in this Muslim, if you get down, brother, it's up, bro. Everyone gonna smile about it. It's gonna be amazing club, bro. And I see that like the 1 month before with one Russian guy happening these things, and everyone is post that. I don't want to just hold that because it's up there. I don't want to get cheat this. If these guys get this, I don't know what they're talking about.
He went out the next night and submitted Li Jingliang in just over 3 minutes, barely taking any damage, which only added to his hype.
The fans are picking up on the energy that this guy has because he just loves to fight so much. So he's fun to watch. He comes in with all of this energy, and then he's just got so much confidence. And that shot that he took down Jingliang with tonight, it reminded me of something. It did, and it's a lazy comparison, John, but I'm going to make it anyway. It reminded me of Khabib. When I would watch Khabib in real person, octagon side, get a close look at how quickly he can move into somebody and just how athletic he is, Khamzat reminded me of that tonight.
It was the kind of performance that made it easy to forget he cheated the scale at all.
This dude is the real deal. People don't want to believe it at times, but this guy is the real deal. And if you want to throw him into a title fight right now, go right ahead. I am not going to stop you at this point.
Most of the time, it's like that. There's no real punishment, and the sport kinda just moves on. Cormier retained his title, Gastelum got a fine he could find in his couch cushions, Chimaev went out and submitted someone with ease. But for the next guy, cheating the scale cost him everything. This was the Road to UFC Season 4 Flyweight Final in Sydney, January 2026, a tournament where the winner walks away with a full UFC contract and their name on the roster. Aaron Tao was one fight away from all of it. He was a city kickboxing prospect, trained alongside Dan Hooker, had gone 11-1 as a pro, and had already come close once before on Dana White's Contender Series in 2024. This was his second shot, and by every measure, his best one.
It's gonna change everything for myself and everyone around me. So, yeah, I'm not really wishing or hoping. I'm convinced like this is something that's gonna happen that I will succeed from, and the fruits from the next couple years are gonna echo in eternity for my kids and their grandkids and stuff like that. Like this is just a way to set up everyone else that I love, and I can't wait.
But when it came time to weigh in, it was clear something was wrong. He requested the privacy box, stepped on, and the number came up to 122.5, almost 3.5 pounds under the 126-pound limit.
It's a little weird, right? What happened? They said 122 and a quarter.
What?
Why would they?
What?
And
Did he do the DC? Did he grab the towel?
They're talking, and it looks like he's going to have to weigh in again. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense why he would wait so long and then come in.
Wow.
Oh, boy.
The hands. What do you think he did?
Where were his hands, guys?
See, DC ruined it for everybody.
He's been hanging out with DC.
She screwed it up for everybody. Yeah.
The same trick Cormier had used with a towel in 2017 and Chimaev had tried in 2021. Tao had tried it with the privacy box itself, leaning his elbows on the edges to shift his weight off the scale. The difference was how badly he'd overshot it.
So he made weight. He was like I forget what he's fighting at
125.
125. He's like 122. Then they realized he cheated. He gained 7 pounds. I was like, damn. When you cheat like that, you got to cheat a little bit.
A little bit.
You just want to be barely under. You just want to be barely under. You don't want to get to the point where people like, how you lose that kind of weight that fast.
Without the box, he came in at 129 pounds, 3 pounds over the limit, and a near 7-pound swing from his first reading. The fight was cancelled on the spot. Tao posted an apology the next day that he had one job to make weight and fight, and he didn't do it. Within days, the UFC released him entirely. There was no fine, no rescheduled date, and no second chance. His opponent, Bad Bayar, eventually got a replacement fight and another shot at a contract. It's crazy to think that after years of grinding through regional shows, Tao had a Contender Series appearance, a road to UFC run, and it all ended not in the cage, but on a scale in Sydney because he leaned too hard on a box. And while these fighters tried to bend the rules of the scale, there's one fighter who made an entire career out of refusing to play by anyone's rules at all. Nate Diaz spent years fighting the UFC on contracts, call-outs, and his own terms, and somehow, more often than not, he won. To find out exactly how he pulled that off, check out this video next. Thanks for watching.